Meantime, President Joe Biden did what he said he never would, granting a sweeping pardon to his son, Hunter. Hunter was just days away from facing possible prison time for 2 separate cases. He was convicted by a jury of federal gun charges in Delaware, and he pleaded guilty to federal tax evasion charges in California. President Biden had repeatedly said that he would not pardon his son and that he had faith in the American justice system. In a statement accompanying the extraordinarily broad pardon, Biden said that he believed Hunter was selectively and unfairly prosecuted. He said he believed in the justice system and wrestled with it, but that politics had infested the process. And once he made the decision, he thought there was no sense in delaying making the announcement. Now, the pardon covers more than the gun and the tax cases. It sweeps in any offense Hunter committed or may have committed for a decade, from January 1st, 2014 to December 1, 2024. As we've said before, a president enjoys broad power to pardon any offense against the United States. Trump could grant a sweeping pardon to all January 6 federal criminal defendants if he wanted to. In fact, the New York Times editorial board warned that Biden's pardon sets a, quote, dangerous precedent and is a, quote, significant misstep that could leave lasting damage. By engendering Trump's further abuses of the pardon power and attacks on the justice system, he may have opened the door. Federal Judge Mark Scarsi, the Trump appointee overseeing Hunter's tax case in California, accused the president of rewriting history. In a decision tossing the tax case, Scarsi wrote, the president's own attorney general and Department of Justice personnel oversaw the investigation leading to these charges. In the president's estimation, this legion of federal civil servants, the undersigned included, are unreasonable people. Now, Politico is reporting that the Biden administration is considering preemptive pardons in the wake of President-elect Donald Trump's announcement of Kash Patel as his nominee for FBI director. Trump had promised retribution against political enemies, something that is unsettling for some in the White House, their aides and advisors. Politico reports that White House officials are carefully weighing pardons that would protect people like Dr. Anthony Fauci, along with Republican Liz Cheney and Adam Schiff, who spearheaded the January 6th Select Committee. But here's the thing. Preemptive pardons, including Biden's pardon of his son, could actually face legal challenges.
There was a lot of conversation at the time of the Nixon grant. Eminent constitutional scholars debated whether the president had the power under the constitutional pardon power to grant preemptive pardons. I know there was conversation at the end of the Trump administration about preemptive pardons, and a decision was made apparently not to grant them. So I think that the real interest for me here is the nature of that grant. And I guess it will, in due course, be found whether it's an appropriate use of the president's power or not.
Now, the Supreme Court recently made clear that the power to pardon is a core constitutional power that belongs to the president. In its decision granting Trump broad immunity from criminal prosecution, the court discussed Lincoln using the pardon power to restore property rights and grant reprieve to anyone who engaged in the rebellion, as they called it, during the Civil War, but then swore an oath to the Union afterwards. Shortly after that, Congress tried to limit Lincoln's ability to pardon, but that didn't fly. As Chief Justice John Roberts said in the immunity decision back then, Chief Justice Chase held the provision unconstitutional because it impaired the effect of a pardon and thus infringed on the constitutional power of the executive. To the executive alone is entrusted the power of the pardon, and the legislature cannot change the effect of such a pardon any more than the executive can change a law. Meanwhile, the United States Supreme Court justices had a busy week. On Monday, they heard a case about flavored vapes that insiders say could decimate the industry. The FDA rejected 2 companies who want to sell sweet-flavored liquids used in e-cigarettes. The FDA says these candy and dessert flavors like Rainbow Road and Creme Brulee cause young people to start using and then become addicted to tobacco and nicotine products. The companies say these vapes actually help adults quit smoking cigarettes, but there's some debate about the evidence they've shown to back up that claim. Now, the companies claim the FDA unlawfully changed the rules of the road, so to speak, when they denied their request to bring these new flavored vape products to market. The justices seemed skeptical about the challenge to the FDA's decision-making. But it may be a moot point. come January, when the Trump administration will take over at the FDA. Trump has vowed to save vaping in the past. This could be his chance to do it. And it's not unusual for an incoming administration that is of the opposite political party of the current one to change positions in a number of pending Supreme Court cases. Meantime, on Wednesday, the justices took up their first major transgender rights case in a battle over Tennessee's law blocking health care for transgender minors. The justices spent nearly 2.5 hours peppering advocates with questions over the state's ban on things like hormone therapy and puberty blockers for trans minors. The decision could affect similar laws on the books in 23 other states, and it could also pave the way for broader restrictions if the court backs Tennessee.
More states being emboldened to go ahead and pass these kinds of bans. And I also think we've seen it in some states already, introductions of bills that would impact adults as well. So, some that could have impacted people up to 21 haven't passed at this point. But I do think, transgender adults are going to have risks to their healthcare access as well.
Now, the key issue here is that Tennessee bans hormone therapy and puberty blockers for trans minors, but allows all other minors to receive the same treatment. For example, a boy experiencing puberty too early can receive puberty blockers, but a boy wishing to take puberty blockers to transition or feminize his appearance cannot. Challengers, backed by the Biden administration, say that violates the Constitution's guarantee to equal protection of the laws because it allows medical treatments for some, but not all, minors. But Tennessee says they're protecting minors with this law, and their position is backed by science.
We're going to focus on the counseling and psychotherapy that can be so beneficial in helping kids deal with gender dysphoria. So that's all Tennessee and these other states are doing, is making sure that kids can get good help, the counseling, the psychotherapy, the mental health services that can help them navigate this while protecting them from the drugs and surgeries until they reach adulthood and can make those decisions.
Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, a Biden appointee, said she was getting nervous during oral argument because those same kinds of scientific arguments were used to pass laws banning interracial marriage that were struck down by the court in Loving v. Virginia back in 1967. A decision in the case will likely come down next summer. Meantime, in our region, D.C. Attorney General Brian Schwalb is suing Amazon for secretly excluding D.C. residents living in Wards 7 and 8 from enjoying full Prime membership delivery benefits. The complaint accuses the tech giant of charging tens of thousands of residents east of the Anacostia River for promises that it doesn't provide. Specifically, Schwalb says that in 2021, before Amazon implemented this exclusion, that nearly 3/4 of packages arrived within 2 days of checkout. But in 2023, only 1/4 of packages arrived in that same time frame. Amazon says these claims are categorically false, but adds, at the same time, we must put safety of our drivers first. In these zip codes, there have been specific and targeted acts at Amazon drivers, and we made the deliberate choice to adjust our operations. Meantime, in Virginia, the husband of missing mother Mamta Koffel is now facing murder charges. Prosecutors filed a superseding indictment accusing Naresh Bhatt of murdering his wife and the mother of his child. He's also accused of defiling a dead body. The 37-year-old is behind bars now, awaiting trial set for September 8th, 2025. Koffel's family members are disappointed they'll have to wait months to see justice done, but they hope the proceedings will be televised and available to the public. A hearing on that is scheduled for March.